100.
Hold on.
5 more, maybe.
I'm overheated, can hardly sleep at night, doing crazy dreaming. You're the reason why. Hiding by the baby, losing my
We're in for 500. First hand of the day we get involved in. We're in the small blind with ace-8 suited. One player opens for 12. Get 2 callers. I decided to call. Headed to a flop with $51 in, and it comes Jack-6-4 all clubs. So he flopped a nut flush. I decided to check it to the initial aggressor, who checks it all the way to the last player, who goes all in for $14. Here, I'm just going to put in the call, hoping for an overcall, maybe get a little extra value, and we do get some because the player behind us raises to 40. This is the initial raiser, so I'm thinking he has something good. Maybe king queen of clubs if we're lucky, but most likely some sort of jack. I put in the call, and we have a side pot of $52, and the main pot of $93, and we're going to head off to a turn card, which is not the best. It is a 6. So the board is paired. If he had pocket jacks, he definitely has me crushed, but let's face it, he's not going to have that very often, and he bets $60. It's probably best just to go ahead and raise now. If he has anything strong, we'll get the money in. But I think he's smart enough to get away from it. So I just put in the call, and we get to see a river card of an ace of diamonds. At this point, I should probably lead small with all my hands, and I don't. I checked it. He checked it back right away, and we lose value on this first hand. This hand, there was a $6 straddle and several limpers. I looked down at 2 kings and decided to make it $40. Maybe a little bit on the small side, but the players were being pretty loose, and I wanted to get some action from them. I ended up getting 2 of the players to put in the call. So we're going to go 3 ways to a flop with 137 in the pot. Flop comes out pretty darn good. It comes queen 8 deuce rainbow. So we have an overpair. We're probably going to get action from someone with a queen. Not much kind of draws out there unless they have something like jack 10 for a gutter. I've been out for 50. Expecting only to get called by someone with a queen, and my opponent at the end of the table announces a call very quickly. The other player gets out of the way. So now I'm putting him on some sort of queen, and I think I'm going to get max value out of this player. Turn card is a 6 of spades, completing the rainbow, so no flush draws out there. Let's go ahead and put in a big size bet for me, which is $125, which is a little more than half pot. If he makes this call, I have a good stack to pot ratio to go ahead and go for the jam. If he has a queen, I'm pretty sure he's going to call. So he puts in the call, and we got 487 in the center, and I got about $350 behind. Looking for a blank on the river, it comes 2 of diamonds, the blankest of blanks. So it's time to go for it. I go ahead and I go all in for my $350. Expecting just about all his queens to call, and he snap folds. And I don't know about you, but I'm having a really hard time figuring out what this player could have had to call 125 on the turn and snap fold the river when the board paired deuces. This hand's against the same opponent as last time. There is a $6 straddle. It's folded to me. I make it $25 from the hijack, and only the straddler puts in the call for the $25. So we're going to go heads up to a flop with $54 in the center. Flop comes out king 4-4, rainbow. He quickly checks to me, and I quickly check it back. So we're going to go see a turn card of an 8 of clubs, which is pretty good, unless he has some sort of king. He might have picked up a flush draw. He bets 20. I put in the call for the 20. We're off to see a river card, which comes another 8. So if he was betting an 8, he now has a full house. If he had a flush draw, he's probably not going to call a bet. And if he has a king, he has me beat. So when he checks it over to me, I'm just going to take my showdown value and check it back. And he shows me the only hand he might have called another bet with. This was the second game of 1-3, so it was a forced move table. So we went over to the other table Picked up tens right away and missed everything. Next hand we picked up queens and flop comes ace high, someone shoves. Then we had king queen, we 3-bet, we ended up getting 4-bet and folded. We picked up queen 10 suited, yeah, you guessed it, we missed everything. We picked up jack 9 suited, you guessed it, missed everything. Finally we pick up a pair of nines, which was a welcome sight. I raise and I only get one caller from the cutoff. So we're going to go heads up to this flop with $44 in the middle. Looking for a good flop because since I made this table change, I have not even come close to winning a pot. And we get a dream flop. In fact, I think it was too good. It comes 9-7 deuce rainbow. So I don't think he has much. So I decided to check it to him, give him a little rope to hang himself. He ends up checking it back. Turn card comes is a 10 of clubs. So it brings a straight draw out, a flush draw out. I decided that he probably has something like that and decided to bet $50, which is an overpot bet, and he calls. River card comes is the worst one in the deck besides the 8 of clubs. It's the 8 of hearts. So it puts up a 4-liner to a straight. I hate my hand. I just thinking about putting out a blocker bet, but I go, why waste the money? I'll just check this. If he bets a significant size, I'm going to go ahead and just fold it, because his most likely holdings are things like king jack, queen jack, maybe something like jack 10. Anyway, he bets $50. This, I think, is a fold, but out of a little bit of frustration that I flopped top set and it went runner, I decided to stick in the call, and he shows king jack offsuit. Well, after losing with 2 nines, 15 minutes later, I get the same 2 nines back in the small blind. There's an open to raise to 16. I get 2 callers. I put in the call from the small blind. So we got a 4-way pot here with $64 in the center. Flop comes out 8 high with 2 clubs. So not a bad flop. I got an overpair, but I don't have any clubs, and it is a little bit coordinated. I checked it over to the pre-flop aggressor, see what he would do. He thinks for a while and then decides to check. The player behind him also thinks for a while and also decides to check. Now it's to the last player, and he ends up betting $45, and he did it fairly aggressively. It makes me think that he's either on a flush draw or some sort of top pair hand that doesn't want to be called. So with an overpair against a flush draw or a top pair hand, I'm going to go ahead and put the pressure on. I make it 115, trying to fold out the other players. He insta-jams for his remaining chips, which is about $225. I instantly call, and we see a run out of a 6 of hearts and a king of hearts. That's good, no clubs. And then he shows me king 4 clubs for a pair of kings. Well, let's keep on playing. The game is good. I have 9-7 of spades in the big blind. There is a limp, a raise, and 3 callers. I decided to call, so $95 in the pot, and the flop comes out ace 9-7 with 2 clubs. So we got bottom 2 pair and a raised pot with multiple players. I check it. The next player checks. The third player puts in a bet for $70. He is called by a player with a very big stack, and now it's on me. So I got 2 pair, draw heavy board, ace on the board. I'm sure I'm going to get action from someone with an ace. Well, I think there's only one move to do here, and this is just to go all in. So after some contemplating, I decided to go ahead and shove. Yeah, I think I'm up against one player with an ace, maybe one player with a huge draw. And the player who checked it after me, he kind of flashes his hand to the dealer and later said that he had ace queen and is getting out of the way. That's a pretty good laydown for him. I did have him beat at the time. The other player eventually folds out, so we get to see a run out against ace 8. So I'm pretty good favorite on this one, and we get a 10 on the turn, give him an open ender, and sure enough, he hits it on the end. Another beat when getting the money in good. Very frustrating. Well, as you can see from that last table change, I did not get anything to go my way at all. I played there for 2.5 hours and basically did not win a single pot. I might have won some small blinds or steal some blinds, but nothing good. So I was getting a little frustrated and mentally drained, and I could stay and play and see if I can fight my way back to even, but I know I wasn't playing my A game. And whether I could win my money back playing my B or C game, I probably could, but why? The idea of poker is to play your A game as much as possible and to avoid playing when you're playing your B or C game, or possibly even worse. So I decided to pack it up, go home, come back to fight another day. And the other day was the very next day. All right, we're back at Capital the very next day. Here we have 8-9 suited from middle position. I decided to put in a raise, end up getting a couple callers. One from the player directly behind me, another one from the player on the button. And we're going to end up going three ways to this flop with $49 in the pot. I don't know too much about my opponents. They're kind of new faces for me. And we get to see a flop that comes out ace high. But it does have two hearts and an 8. So I do have a pair, a flush draw. I definitely think that's worth betting. So that's what I do. I put out $20. Both players end up putting in the call for the $20. So we're going to head to the turn with $109 in the pot. Looking for something good, maybe a heart, an 8, a 9. Instead, we get a 6 of diamonds. Not the greatest card in the world. It does bring in 5-7. I decided to lead again, this time a little bit small size of $35. Just trying to prevent someone from maybe putting in a large bet and taking the pot away from me. It's probably not the greatest idea in the world because my opponent next to me decides to make it 135. So obviously he has a hand that he considers value. He probably not putting in a bluff here. So what could he have? He could have ace 6, 5-7, maybe 8-6. The other player decides to put in the call. Now it's back on me. I think I'm getting the proper odds to go ahead and call for this, see if I can hit my flush. I do have concerns that the opponent who made the overcall, well, he could have a bigger flush draw than me, and that would be pretty bad because I'll be drawn to not many outs whatsoever. So my idea was if I hit a flush card, I think I'll check it. I know it's a little bit wimpy to do so, and the player to my left thinks for a while, then checks it, and the other player checks it back. I missed out on value here. I could have got at least another couple $100 out of the player to my left because he showed over ace 6. So he did have two pair. I did suck out on him, but I missed out on some value again. The very next hand, I looked down at 6-5 of hearts, and I figured, well, if 8-9 was good enough, let's try 6-5. I put in a raise to 15. End up getting 4 players that put in the call for the $15. Now, I usually don't open up 6-5 right under the gun or in the +1 position, but I felt like this table wouldn't play back at me so much, so I think it was fair to say that I can get away with a little bit more than normally in a tougher game. So 4 of us see the flop with 64 in. Flop comes out pretty good for my hand. 5-4 deuce rainbow. So I got top pair, straight draw. I decided to check it because it doesn't look very strong for my range, and I was kind of interested to see what some of the other players would do. It gets checked all the way around to the button, who bets for $20. Now he has a fairly short stack. He could be doing this with an overpair like 6s, 7s, or 8s. But with his stack size, I decided just to isolate him and take my chances. So I put in a raise to 60. When it gets back to him, he shoves all in, and I tell him, well, you're probably ahead, but I'm calling. So I put in the chip, and we're going to get to see a run out, which comes 4 and then a jack. Not the greatest run out. He turned over ace king, which was quite surprising. So my pair of 5s was good. If he would have put those chips in pre-flop, I think he would have probably took the whole pot down. But he got a little trappy, I guess, with ace king, and it gave me a chance to win this small pot. Well, now it's time to play a real hand after playing all those little suited connectors. I got 2 queens in the cutoff. We got a bunch of limpers. I just raised to $25, and only 1 limper calls from middle position. Now he has a stack of about $200. He plays fairly tight normally, so I'm thinking that he probably has a medium-sized pocket pair. He could also have something like ace king, ace jack suited, maybe ace 10. Anyway, we're going heads up to this flop with 63 in. It comes 5-3 deuce with 2 clubs. So he either has like an overpair, a set of fives, or some sort of flush draw because he comes out swinging with a $100 bet. Yeah, we're just going to get it in with his stack size. I think his most likely holding is a medium-sized pocket pair. So I go ahead and jam. He puts in the quick call. So we're going to end up seeing a run out with some $467 in the center. It comes with a 9 of diamonds and a 9 of clubs. So the flush draw gets there, and he mucks his hand. Player sitting next to him said that he had a pair of sevens. Well, this is the most interesting hand of the day. There was a $3 limp, another $3 limp, and then the player to my direct right makes it 25. Now, this player plays fairly solidly, so when he makes it 25, I'm putting him on a big hand, maybe ace-king, but more likely stuff like overpairs, like aces, kings, queens. And I have jacks here. I'm not going to get too overly excited with jacks against this particular player. I'm going to go ahead and just flat, and hopefully I can hit a set. I'm going to play it like I'm playing a smaller pair. I don't think there's a lot of value in the jacks itself. And we get one other caller. So we go 3 ways to this flop with 82 in the center, and it comes out jack 9 8 with 2 hearts. So perfect flop. If the player has something like pocket queens or kings or aces, he's definitely going to be firing. The first player checks. Player to my right now bets out for $60. What to do? Well, I can't have this player behind me get a cheap call in because that is a very draw heavy board, and I'm going to have to put in a raise. And I didn't want to go too big. I kind of want to go just big enough where I'll get half my opponent's stack in the pot, and then I can get the other half on the turn. So I made it 140. And my opponent's a good guy. He's a pretty smart guy too. And when he saw me raise to 140, it sent off some alarm bells in his mind. But he couldn't really get away from it. He did say that there was only 2 hands that were beating him at this time. And so I'm thinking he has like pocket 9s. Anyway, he put in the call. Turn card was a 5 of hearts. He checked. I jammed immediately. He snap calls. River card comes as a 10 of diamonds. I show my pocket jacks, and sure enough, he had pocket 9s. As I said, he came really close to finding a fold, which would have been amazing. I told him that I wouldn't be folding if I was in his shoes. I would just be getting my money in and hoping to win. But he saw it differently, and I congratulate him for taking the time of thinking about it because his initial read was correct. That first day I started out great. I was up like $350 before I even knew it. It was a forced move game, moved over to the main table, sat down, could not make anything work. Very frustrating. I got my money in good a few times just to be drawn out on. And I decided to call it quits early. And it's hard to do that sometimes. And one of the reasons I'm talking about it is just so you guys know that you're not going to run good all the time. And there are going to be days when you are just going to be getting pounded. And if the game was great and I was playing my A game, I would have stayed and played and fought for it and probably got it all back. But after taking so many bad beats, or just beats, I wouldn't say they're bad beats, they're just beats, you get mentally drained and you expect things to go poorly. And you might be a little bit too timid in some spots where you shouldn't be. So I decided just to hang it up, take my loss, and head on home. Because I know there's always going to be another day. There's always going to be another game. So why risk it, right? So I took my loss, came back the next day. Obviously, things were much different that day. I just ran like God, made a bunch of hands, got my money in good in a lot of spots, and booked a nice win. So sometimes it's better just to, pack it in and go home and fight another day. So that's my suggestion to you. Is when you're running bad and you don't think you're playing your best and the game isn't as good as you want it to be, why fight for it? Come back another day. The game will be there. The players will be there. Anyway, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate your support. If you did like the content, please hit the little thumbs up there. It does help out the channel. If you have something to say, put it down in the comments. I'll try to respond to all of them. And so until next time, Good luck at the tables, and we'll see you back here soon.